Good morning and welcome to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host this morning. Throughout our country, faith communities develop philanthropic and other resource organizational structures in order to meet the social, educational, and other needs of their particular community across the nation and worldwide. With us this morning is Jennifer Gorovitz, the CEO of the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund of San Francisco, Marin and Sonoma counties, and the Peninsula. And joining with her is Tom Kasten, the chair of the board of directors of the Jewish Community Federation. Welcome, Jennifer and Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right in. Jennifer, what is the Federation?
The Federation has a very simple role that is sort of much more complicated in execution. Our goal is to create a vibrant and healthy Jewish community wherever Jews are in the world. So here in the Bay Area, as well as in Eastern Europe, Latin America, and then of course Israel as well.
And so how does a vibrant community get formed? I know that's a general question, but within the context of what a faith community has as a vision for itself and as an example to the rest of the community, what formulates a vibrant community?
Really, there are three principles that are derived directly from the Torah, and depending on one's background could be interpreted more or less strictly or literally. Ours is a very loose or flexible interpretation because of the diversity of the Bay Area. But we think that there are really three ingredients to a healthy and vibrant Jewish community. One is education and identity. Without building the next generation of Jews who know where they came from and have the opportunity to figure out where they want to go, what our values are and our traditions are, then it's difficult to imagine continuity of the Jewish community in the future. So that's a strong emphasis of ours. Another that is absolutely essential is caring for our vulnerable. This is a Jewish value rooted in the Torah, absolutely. And then the third is culture and public affairs. We are part and parcel of the community in which we live. We are as much a cultural people as we are a faith-based people, and so our cultural institutions are very important for us to foster, nurture, and protect.
Tom, you're the chair of the board of directors of the Jewish Community Federation, and I think everybody knows that every organizational structure has its own vitality based on that relationship between the executive and the lay leadership. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how the lay leadership functions within the context of the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund.
Sure. We actually took a look at our governance structure not that long ago to look at how we can tighten it even further in terms of the relationship between the professional staff and the lay leaders. And so we have an executive committee, which is about 12 people, and then we have a board of directors, which is around 34 people, and then we have a board of governors, which is about 70 people. The decision-making responsibility in terms of making decisions for the Federation rests with the board of directors, but we are part of the community. The Federation is part of the community, so we wanted a larger body where we could bring members of the community in to discuss issues of importance or to provide feedback to the professional staff if they had questions or they wanted to explore a particular subject. So we, the lay people, are really here to support the work of the Federation and to support the professional staff. They provide guidance, they provide counsel, they may raise questions for us, but we really work together for the benefit of the entire community.
And I would add something to that, Eric, which is that we have very strong committees and subcommittees. So we have over 700 volunteers coming in and out of the Federation in any given year. Our endowment committee, for example, is made up of over 30 members of the community who are among our oldest, most established founding families, and others who are entrepreneurs and innovators, so that we can make sure that the individual philanthropy that is pursued through the endowment fund is something that remains a high point of the work that we do. People have a lot of trust in us. We also have an executive allocations committee, a group of very committed lay leaders who help us to make our grants in a very strategic way throughout the year.
Can I add one other committee? We have, as Jennifer said, a lot of them. We have a committee called the Capital Planning Committee, which works with all the agencies in our community when they have a capital project, to help them think through the capital project, to review the financial aspects of it, to help them put together the best project that they can, both in terms of getting it done, but also in terms of financing it.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break and return in just a moment here on Mosaic. We'll see you in just one moment back here on Mosaic. Good morning. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss, and honored to be your host this morning on Mosaic. Welcome back. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation with Jennifer Gorovitz, who is the CEO of the Jewish Community Federation Endowment Fund of San Francisco, Marin, Sonoma counties, and the Peninsula, and Tom Kasten, the Federation's chair of the board of directors. Welcome back, Jennifer and Tom. We were talking about the architecture of the Federation and how it's set up, and that it gives grants and other resources to Jewish community agencies. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what that granting process is like, and also then the other resources that the Federation makes available to the community.
Sure. So from a grant-making standpoint, we were talking earlier about the importance of creating a healthy and vibrant community and the factors that go into that. So we have a family of funds approach, just as if you were an investor. We look at our donors and our Jewish community as investors in their community, and we've created a portfolio approach, a family of funds for each of the segments of the community that we want to strengthen. So the first is the core fund, right? You think of the core. A lot of people take Pilates these days. It's very important to have a strong core, a strong infrastructure, otherwise nothing else works properly. We have an Israel and Global Fund. That's the fund where we support Jews around the world to get what they need, and in Israel to support a pluralistic, tolerant, just society. And then new in the past 2 years is our Bay Area Initiatives Fund, where we look at the largest challenges facing the Bay Area as a whole and how we as a backbone organization can deploy a variety of agencies all together to achieve a goal, such as in the area of special needs. And then finally, our Innovation Fund, because if we don't keep our eye on innovation all of the time and allow the next generations to create the Jewish life that they want to have, we'll really be holding our community back. So that's the primary way in which we make grants as a collective. But of course, we also have over 970 donor-advised funds and family foundations, and we help these individuals to pursue their own vision, passion, in the general community as well as the Jewish community. And our hope is that by making opportunities available in the Jewish community, these folks will also make grants to the things that are priorities for us, and that creates great leverage as well. So in total, we grant out about $173 million of grants a year from all of our sources, about 16 or so from the annual campaign and our unrestricted endowment, and then this great amount from our individual philanthropists in the community.
You know, when we look at the demographics and the way that our society is fundamentally shifting, one of the central questions that is asked, no matter what sort of part of the sector one is in, is why people give. Why do people give their time? Why do people give of their own financial resources? Why do people give of their own expertise? Why do people get involved in something that is beyond their own particular zone of individual life? And I'm wondering, from your perspective at the Jewish Community Federation, Tom and Jennifer, what are some of the shifts that you see at work that are important for us to pay attention to? I might add, in an ever-shifting landscape. I don't think it's the way we stereotypically thought about things in the past, where we think, well, something's going to land someplace and stay there for a while, and we can cultivate that, whatever that is. But really, there's a multiplicity of factors at work that are ever-changing in the global landscape and certainly in the Jewish landscape. And I'm wondering sort of what your observations about that are and how they then come to land in the Federation's world.
So I think in the philanthropic landscape generally, we are in a rapidly changing environment that nobody would have predicted even 5 or 10 years ago. With the advent of such wide use of the internet, and the ability of any public charity anywhere in the world to not only create a site, but to seek donations on that site. A lot of our young people are really looking at not only the internet as you would think of historically on a desktop computer or a laptop, but Facebook and Twitter as means of really learning about and connecting with charities wherever they are. So that's the first sort of general trend. The second is that young people want to be very connected to the cause to which they're giving. They want to be involved, they want to see, feel, touch the impact. Historically in the Jewish community, our parents' generation and our grandparents too, I think, felt an obligation to give to the Jewish community. It was just something you did. It was in your bones. Part and parcel of being a Jew was caring first for your family and then for your Jewish community and then for the stranger among you. I think today our young people think of themselves as part of the broader world around them. They want to help the people who are living on less than $1 a day anywhere where they are in the world. And they also want to care for their Jewish community. So the way that we've tried to engage them is through venture philanthropy, bringing them together to really study an issue, think about who's doing the very best job of tackling that issue, really interacting a lot with the potential grantees, and then together making a decision about where to place those funds, and then really sticking with those organizations for a couple of years so that we can really monitor how they're doing, and these donors feel very engaged both in the process and in the organizations. So ultimately we think that this is an approach that will benefit the community at large, because these are young people who didn't know very much about the Jewish community, who now know a lot about the Jewish community and feel very connected to it in a variety of ways.
Jennifer, Tom, we're going to take a quick break and come back to this wonderful conversation in just one moment. Good morning and welcome back to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss and honored to be your host. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation with the Jewish Community Federation CEO Jennifer Gorovitz and the chair of the board of directors, Tom Kasten. Before the break, Jennifer was talking, Tom, about shifts that she's observed in the community, and I'm wondering, from your perspective, what you see as well.
Well, I think there's been almost teutonic shifts in the whole world of philanthropy. If we go back into our history, we used to be called the Jewish Welfare Federation, and our primary goal and objective was tzedakah, or righteous giving, taking care of people who had needs. Caring for the vulnerable was our primary focus. But as the economy has developed, as people have been successful, they're now looking to broaden their philanthropic goals. And what we look for is we try to match the needs in the community, which the Federation is in a unique position to gauge, because we do have a view of the entire community. As Jennifer said earlier, we engage hundreds of people from the community. And to take those needs and match them with the passion of our donors. So what are donors passionate about today? Because we can extend beyond just caring for the vulnerable, as Jennifer said earlier, in terms of our philanthropy. So we connect those passions with the needs, so we're a bit of a connector in the community, and we try to network organizations and donors together to really attack or deal with a specific issue where we can have a significant influence and results. Today, donors are looking for connection to what they believe in. They're looking for results. They want to know that their dollars have been well spent, and I think it's wonderful that donors have the confidence in the Federation to know where those needs are, and that we evaluate those needs and the organizations serving those needs so that we can be most effective and relevant in the community.
You know, you remind me that one of the most dynamic aspects, I think, of the Federation is that it isn't only a grantor of money, that it also gets engaged in a lot of other ways in which an organizational structure can use its expertise in different arenas. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the other kinds of resources that the Federation offers the community at large to help bolster that vibrancy.
Sure. So earlier Tom mentioned the Capital Planning Committee, which is a really important group of people who are real estate experts, banking experts, all manner of experts connected to real estate projects or developments. And they've probably contributed, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of hours in any given year. In addition to that, you know, we talked before about grant making, right? So we play 3 roles in the community: strategic investing, capacity building, of which capital planning is a part, and the development of leaders and philanthropists. So in our capacity building area, we match pro bono experts in the community, of which we have about 175 signed up to date, and the organizations in the community who have particular needs. And we made 45 matches last year in the areas of real estate leasing, IT, marketing, finance, legal, and more. And then we also have these communities of practice, communities of learning that are consist of the executive directors of Jewish organizations, their finance professionals, their fundraising professionals, where we bring in outside experts or use our own staffs, each of our organizations, to really provide learning and best practices so that everybody can really thrive. Our feeling is that a financial investment in the community isn't sufficient. It has to be followed with the sort of insurance that everybody's getting everything they need in order to succeed, so much of which is non-financial, as you know. And in addition to that, they need leaders for the future. They need people who are going to sit on their boards and really help to guide and inform their decisions, and they need donors. And how are we going to get those? Well, by developing leaders very proactively, we're going to help the community to have successive generations of people who are skilled and knowledgeable about the issues of the community, who are interested in being part of those organizations and continuing them into the future.
We're going to take just a really quick break and come back in just a moment here on Mosaic. Good morning. Welcome back to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss, and honored to be your host this morning. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation with Tom Kasten, the chair of the board of directors of the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund of San Francisco, Marin and Sonoma counties, and the Peninsula, and Jennifer Gorovitz, its CEO. Welcome back, Tom and Jennifer. How does our particular Jewish Community Federation Endowment Fund compare to others around the country? We have a federation region in the South Bay, one in the East Bay, and Jewish Community Federations exist in different forms in nearly every single urban center across the entire country and in fact North America. And so I'm wondering, how do we compare to the other federations around the country, around the continent?
Well, Eric, we share a lot of common characteristics in terms of some of the work we do, but there are some distinctive differences between our federation and some of the others. We have perhaps the broadest geographic reach of any federation. As you noted, we go from Sonoma all the way down to the South Peninsula, which is a very large area. Because of where we're located in the heart of Silicon Valley and technology and the bio industries, we put, I think, more emphasis on innovation and on creativity and entrepreneurship. We're always looking for new ways to do things, of doing. An example is we create the Impact Grant Initiative, or what we call ID. And this is of several things. One, we gather a group of people. I was at the kickoff of one of our IGIs about a week ago in San Francisco with young people learning to be philanthropists. So we bring them together. We help them, we expose them to philanthropy and what it means to be a philanthropist, and we help them through the process of how do you allocate money? How do you raise money? And then how do you allocate money? And they actually go through a process over a 10-month period that culminates in their ability to allocate some funds to agencies that they have researched through an RFP process, a request for proposal. So they have to evaluate these proposals and decide where to spend the money. And one of the things they, of course, learn fairly early on is that the needs far exceed the resources. So how do you channel those precious resources where they can do the most good in our community?
So, Tom, from your perspective as chair of the board, as a lay leader through the years, there's always in an organization a kind of a conversation between what is proactive and what is reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Where does an organization exert its mission and its vision in a proactive manner, and to what degree does it react to what the grassroots is also bringing forward? And I'm wondering if you can talk about that kind of a concept within the context of how our federation on this side of the bay functions.
Well, I think it begins with strategy, and recently we just went through a strategic planning process where we could step back and kind of take a look at the whole community and start to look where the needs are and where we could make a difference, where we would be relevant and where we could make a difference. And I think we were very proactive about that. So we look at these challenges and we become proactive in trying to address those challenges through the work that we do. But we also have to react to changes in the environment because, as you noted earlier, the environment is constantly changing. So we need to keep our finger on the pulse. The last study we did was 2004, where we did an extensive community study. We need to start looking at maybe redoing that study because a lot of time has passed by. Also, there are times when there are just issues that crop up immediately, particularly on the national and international level. We've seen some of the natural disasters that have taken place where we will immediately try and step in and provide a vehicle for our donors to be able to help address the needs as a result of those kinds of issues.
So always an ever-changing environment. Jennifer and Tom, believe it or not, we've come to the end of our time together. So I want to thank you so much for being here and say to you, thank you so much for joining us here on Mosaic. This is a kind of comma in the conversation. We encourage you to go to the Federation's website to learn more about them and to engage them in whatever way you think would be helpful to yourself and your community to give back your time, your energy, and your money. Thank you so much for being with us here on Mosaic.